Yo, what's up guys, it's NLW Figs here, back again with another video. Today, going to be giving you my predictions for the WWE Draft, or at the very least, what I would like to see from the WWE Draft. It starts tonight on Smackdown, we'll continue on Raw, and it's a chance for a shake-up. I know the draft is an exciting time for wrestling fans, so it's exciting to see who's going to be jumping ship and what new feuds we can expect to see heading into WrestleMania. But before I get into the video, make sure you smash the like button as it helps get the channel out there. Also remember to subscribe to NLW Figs and leave your predictions for the WWE Draft in the comments below and let me know who you'd like to see get drafted. So we'll start off with who I would like to see go from Raw to Smackdown, and we'll start off with the Scottish Warrior himself, Drew McIntyre. This is a guy who I feel has done it all on Raw. So he's won the WWE Championship, you know, he's main evented WrestleMania, or at least he's competed for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, held the title for a year. Not really much left for him to do. I mean, he's feuded with Bobby Lashley, feuded with Jinder Mahal. There are a couple of feuds he could do on Raw, but anything he does at this point would feel like a demotion. So I feel like he needs to move to SmackDown, start new feuds, and you know what, maybe have a WrestleMania match with Roman Reigns. You never know. I think that's a rematch that a lot of people are looking forward to seeing. So that's why I'm going to pick Drew McIntyre to go to SmackDown and go for a main event run, maybe be the one to beat Roman Reigns. Who knows? And the next guy I want to see move from Raw to SmackDown is the limitless Keith Lee, or Bearcat Keith Lee, as he's called now. So he's gone with a more aggressive, a more heel-like character, it seems, in recent weeks. And I think that this is a good thing for Keith Lee. I think it's the kind of thing that he needs to kind of revitalise his stagnant start-stop pushes. And, you know, with this mean streak in him, you know, I think he's a great guy and I think he could work as a babyface, but WWE see him as a heel, so it is what it is. But still would like to see him go to SmackDown and work with the competitors over there. You know, they've got a lot of smaller guys like Sami Zayn's, and, you know, you could even have him as a tweener, maybe. You know, they've got a lot of smaller guys on that roster. So I think that he could definitely push his weight around a little bit on the SmackDown roster. Then again, on Raw, I guess you've got Ricochet, you've got the likes of Mustafa Ali and Mansoor as well. You could maybe put him in with. But I think really give him a run with the IC title, have him go against Shinsuke Nakamura. I think that's something that a lot of people would like to see, including myself. So that's why I'm going to have Keith Lee move over from Raw to SmackDown. Another guy I'd have move from Raw to SmackDown for similar reasons is Sheamus. Again, Sheamus is someone who, he's done it all on Raw really. He's won the United States Championship. He's feuded with McIntyre for the WWE title at times as well. I think that he needs a fresh start on SmackDown. I think he moved over in the last draft as well, they did, I believe, from SmackDown to Raw. I'd personally move him back over to SmackDown, you know, mix it up with the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura, like I said. Also maybe have him in a match with Roman Reigns, you know, have him against the Mysterios. There's a bunch of stuff you could do. I can't really remember off the top of my head who's who on that brand, but I think it would be a good idea to have him there. So, you know, definitely looking forward to seeing what Sheamus would do over in a different environment. I think it's something that's needed to revitalise him. Another person that I would move from Raw to SmackDown is the Empress of Tomorrow, Asuka. Now at the moment Asuka's dealing with some sort of undisclosed injury, so hopefully she can make it back from that in time. However, I think that Asuka at the moment on Raw, she lost a lot of momentum after WrestleMania and she didn't really have a lot going for her as the Raw Women's Champion. I think she's been criminally underutilised, even though she was a long reigning Women's Champion on Raw. You know, since WrestleMania, hasn't really done a lot, and it's a real shame to see. I think that she could mix it up with Becky Lynch again, you know, and on SmackDown as well you've got Bianca Belair. I think that maybe Asuka and Bianca could have some sort of rivalry going on. I'm not saying turn Asuka heel, but, you know, have her go up against new opponents. You know, she could elevate the likes of Liv Morgan, others, Carmella, you know. So I think that Asuka to SmackDown would be something as well to help revitalise her career a little bit. And a lot of my choices are based on people who I think have been misused and could use a fresh start, so to speak. Speaking of, we'll go on to the Queen of Spades, Shayna Baszler. Now, Shayna Baszler has this new character on Raw. She's vicious, she's you know, more dominating, kind of like how I've been booking her in Raw Rebooked, or how she was back in her NXT days. So I think that Shayna Baszler, again, it's good to see her have more of a mean streak. I think she could continue that on the SmackDown brand, because you've got the likes of Nox, Shotzi, Toni Storm at the moment. I think she can mix it up with a lot of people who she's formerly faced in NXT, and that would be something good to see over on that side of things on SmackDown. So that's why I'm going to have Shayna Baszler go over, maybe even become SmackDown Women's Champion, pick up something again with Becky Lynch. Even though Lynch is a heel now, you know, there's no reason you can't turn her into more of a tweener. You know, it's just something to think about. And there's also the rumour that there's going to be NXT talents involved in the draft, and there's one NXT talent who I think should move to SmackDown in the draft, and that is Kyle O'Reilly. Unfortunately for Kyle O'Reilly, he had a killer match with Adam Cole, and then since then he's just kind of been there on NXT. He hasn't really done a lot of note, not that I can remember, so I don't think he fits in with this new brand of NXT, which I'm not a massive fan of, I'm going to be honest, because I miss the old NXT. So I think that Kyle O'Reilly, it's time for him to move on, get pushed to the main roster. I think Roderick Strong's doing fine in his whole Diamond Mine faction as the Cruiserweight Champion to kind of help elevate the younger talent or the inexperienced talent. I think Kyle O'Reilly probably is better suited to just being on the main roster at this point, and I think on SmackDown as well, could have him go against Roman Reigns, you know, you could have him go against Shinsuke Nakamura. There's a lot of dream matches there, you know, Apollo Crews as well. I think he'd be good against him, and there's just a bunch of different fantasy matches that I think he could have on SmackDown. I think he could fill that Cesaro type role, like the underdog who's quite tough. But yeah, I'd like to see Kyle O'Reilly have a chance to mix it up on the main roster, you know, while he's still relatively young. And I forgot to add John Morrison to that list as well. I think that Morrison as well, in hindsight, I'm thinking, you know, that he's broken up with The Miz, have a little bit of a babyface run on SmackDown, go after the Intercontinental Championship, maybe even challenge our Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. You could put him in a tag team maybe, go for the tag team titles, I don't know, but there's something about Morrison that screams underutilised at the moment. You know, he really made a name for himself in Lucha Underground and around the world as like Johnny Mundo, Johnny Impact, what have you. Now he's back in WWE. You know, we haven't really seen a lot of Morrison, what he can do. There was a lot of hype going into him coming back, and now it's just sort of been lost in the shuffle a little bit, like a lot of people. And I think that Morrison really could shine on SmackDown. Would love to see him versus Shinsuke Nakamura, kind of shades of Jeff Hardy versus John Morrison back in like 2009, Morrison versus Rey Mysterio, that kind of thing. You know, there's a bunch of possibilities for Morrison over on SmackDown, and I think he could really benefit from like even just like a mini push, helping get some other talent over, you know, that kind of thing. I'd love to see him back on the SmackDown brand as a single star this time. Now we'll move on to people I think should go from SmackDown to Raw, and we'll start off with Kevin Owens. Now Kevin Owens is another guy who I think has main event potential. Now there's also rumours that his contract's going to be expiring soon. He might not stay with the WWE for long, but I would like to see him on Raw, even if it is for a couple of months, just to kind of give the rub to some younger guys. Would like to see him in the ring with like Big E maybe, one last heel run for Kevin Owens potentially. You know, he did a lot with Roman Reigns on SmackDown, and I think anything again, like the same with Drew McIntyre, when you're associated with one guy for so long, you kind of want to move away to a different show, if you know what I mean. So I think that Kevin Owens could do a lot of good on Raw, because he is in that upper mid-card talent that could be pushed into the main event whenever. So I think that he'd be a benefit to the company. Even if he is leaving soon, I'm sure he'd be happy to put people over on his way out. So that's why I'd have him on the Raw brand. And another person I think should be on the Raw brand is the boss, Sasha Banks. Now, she's only just returned from injury, so I think she should wrap up that stuff with Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair sooner rather than later. But again, like, it doesn't look like Sasha's going to be drafted at this point. But I think out of everyone, I think she'd benefit a lot from going to Raw. You know, she was on SmackDown, longest reigning SmackDown champion for a while. Was it? Oh, maybe not. But she was certainly reigning for quite a while there. And I think it would be good for her to kind of get away from Bianca and Becky for a while, to really let her shine on her own. Because on Raw, the only real megastar they've got is Charlotte Flair, and I know a lot of people are sick of her, so maybe have Sasha Banks go in. Maybe not rehash the Sasha Charlotte stuff, keep them separated, but have Sasha go in with some of the younger talent on Raw, at least some of the newer talent on Raw on the women's side, you know, like Doudrop, stupid name I know, but like, again, like, would like to see Piper Niven against Sasha Banks and more. Yeah, I think there's possibilities there on Raw that aren't on SmackDown, and I think that the Raw women's division needs a boost of talent, and that's why I think that Sasha Banks could go there. And speaking of talent boost for the women's division, I'd also throw in Toni Storm. I know that she's only just debuted on SmackDown, and she hasn't really done anything of note. With that in mind, I think that Toni Storm could pick up a lot of rivalries with the likes of Rhea Ripley from NXT UK, as well as Piper Niven as well. Can really go back with that one for a fresh audience. And again, have Toni Storm come in and challenge Charlotte Flair. I think that would be a fantastic pay-per-view match. You know, there's a lot of stuff on SmackDown, you know, it seems quite bloated the women's roster at the moment in terms of, and that's a good thing because there's so much talent there. You've got the likes of Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart from NXT. I think moving Toni Storm to Raw would really freshen her act up and hopefully give her some TV time with 3 hours to work with. So we'd definitely think about moving Toni Storm or any of the new NXT talent over to Raw. And now we'll also go on to someone who I think should be on Raw, and it's Cesaro. So Cesaro, again, like, he's had the feud with Roman Reigns, and he's had a couple of good matches there. But I think with more time, more TV time on Raw, you can mix him with Ricochet, have a feud there. There's also a bunch of other guys on Raw who are very underutilized at the moment, like Ali, like Mansoor, that I think you can throw Cesaro in there with if you put him in a tag team with you know, whoever. I think there's definitely potential there that they're not using with Cesaro, and Cesaro seems to be overlooked quite a lot of the time. I could even see maybe Otis or Chad Gable going over to Raw as well and moving the Alpha Academy, but for now I think they should stay on SmackDown. But yeah, Cesaro, again, a guy who I want to see more opportunities for, and I think a fresh start with more opponents to face. Just have a cracking match every Monday night, honestly. I think that would help Raw a lot. Just have a 20-minute banger with whoever. I think Cesaro could really help elevate the wrestling quality on Raw on Monday nights. You know, even against the likes of AJ Styles, Riddle, or Orton, that kind of thing. I think that Raw's in good hands if it had Cesaro on it. And here's the only tag team that I was thinking of moving. I would move the Mysterios. Now, the reason I would move the Mysterios to Raw is because, you know, they were on Raw in the majority of 2020, but they kind of continued their feuds over to SmackDown, so it didn't really feel like they were leaving so much as they were taking their feuds with them. So it doesn't feel like they've had a fresh start on SmackDown. However, on Raw, you know, I think that they could go into the WWE title scene. You know, they could face the New Day. There's a bunch of stuff they could do with the Mysterios that I feel they've exhausted on SmackDown, because they faced the Dirty Dogs and they faced the Usos. So what's really left for them to do? Maybe feud against each other one-on-one, have Rey Mysterio in another big high-profile feud against Big E, maybe? I don't know. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff that I think Dominic as well could benefit from. You know, working with the talents on Raw, I think he could go in with Mansoor and Mustafa Ali, and you know, the former members of Retribution as well. I think they could rejuvenate the tag team division on Raw. It's certainly a lot of possibilities there, like I've said, with a lot of these guys. And Rey Mysterio is someone who I know he wants to give the world to his son, you know, in terms of opportunities and that. So I think Dominic would probably benefit the most from this move, in my opinion. You know, give him that time to shine on Raw with 3 hours there. So yeah, and finally, last but not least, I would say from NXT as well. So I chose Kyle O'Reilly to go to SmackDown. Who I'd choose to go to Raw is the entirety of the way. And that is Johnny Gargano and Candice LeRae. I don't know whether you bring Indy Hartwell up with them, because obviously she's got a thing going on with Dexter Lumis. But in terms of like storylines, I think that Candice LeRae could boost the women's division on Raw. And you know, you don't have to have them together necessarily, but they could be a double act, or they could just be single stars. But I think that, they've all fallen over. But whatever, you know, you've got Johnny Gargano, who, again, he's done it all in NXT, like literally everything. There's nothing left for him to do. And I don't know how he fits into this new NXT 2.0, because he's quite a spot-based wrestler, isn't he? He's got a very specific style that I think that NXT has moved on from, which, you know, whether you like it or not, I think that Johnny Gargano on Raw, have him as a babyface again, have him as a heel, whatever you want from him. I think he can certainly fit the mould. Whether he leaves NXT and goes away to the Indies, AEW, what have you, or he stays with WWE, I definitely think he should be put on the main roster. You know, it's time. He's been in NXT for 5 years now. I think he's done great work. I think he can do great work on the main roster if you just let him shine, let him do his thing. And the same with Candice LeRae. I think it'd be fantastic to see them both on the main roster, whether that be SmackDown on Raw. I think that they could definitely add a bit of comedic timing, as we've seen in The Way. You know, although The Way on NXT have been one of the highlights from the old days of NXT, so whether you'd want to continue that on the main roster, continue it in NXT, I don't know, but all I know is I think that Gargano probably needs to go to the main roster sooner rather than later. That's just my opinion. So there you have my rosters. You've got Raw and you've got SmackDown, but which is the better roster? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and also comment below what your predictions are for the draft and who you want to see move from Raw to SmackDown or from SmackDown to Raw, and what NXT talents do you think will move in the draft, if any. Let me know in the comments below. Like the video as always, and remember to subscribe to NLW Figs. That's it from me. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys later.